Well, yes, we did get a little bit of Cindy. We were on the western fringes. Most of the storm went through the Beaumont to Shreveport area, pretty much right where NHC forecasted that to go. And you can see that we did pick up a few showers there. At least 2 major bands came through here today. And thought there might be one more there towards the end. So I'm checking the chart for that. But you can see the clouds towards the end there, they were moving more west to east. So we were picking up the dry area of advection back in behind the system. Let's see what things look like outside right now. Looks a little bit better, just a little bit of mid-level cloud and drastic improvement from yesterday. So there's the charts and the remnants of Cindy, pretty much centered northwest or northeast of Shreveport, right in this area right here. Okay, so we're looking about maybe this area here. That's the remains, and we saw that come up to the north like that. But nevertheless, we do see a lot of 70s dew points hanging on, and a lot of the 60s dew points have been pushed a little bit further to the west today. So this is just pretty characteristic of the moisture that's brought northward with these tropical systems, and we can see further to the west or to the east, we see dew points in the mid-70s. And we've also got good wind shear profiles for tornadic storms. So we do have a tornado warning for part of Arkansas and Mississippi there. And we'll take a look at that in a bit. Okay, that chart right there, plotted by digital atmosphere. And now we'll go to the other charts. Going to start all the way back at the beginning. There we go. Circulation showing up there on the mesoscale analysis from SPC. And elsewhere, we've got the heat troughing out over the high plains there. So some of the flow making it from the south towards those thunderstorms, and these storms here are kind of elevated. I think we're finally seeing a little bit of a relief from the heat wave. Let me pull up the charts for that. Yeah, 111 degrees at this hour, and 118 there at Needles. That's about 5 to 7 degrees colder than what we had. I think that was 2 days ago. So about the hot spot for today is pretty much Needles right there, and 111. A little bit of a cool down there at Las Vegas. This is a interesting chart here. This shows the helicity in the 0 through 1 kilometer layer. Now I kind of wish it would show like the surface plots and the 850 millibar flow, but whatever the case, this is showing that the values are kind of elevated from Alabama up to the Atlanta area, and in another band from Monroe up to southeastern Arkansas. So these are enhanced areas for potential supercell development. Now, it's not uncommon to get tornadoes on the eastern periphery of tropical systems making landfall. However, the supercells we do get do tend to be miniature supercells, and they're very transitory, and they can be very difficult to pick out on the radar network. And there's a look at the risk areas right there. So a slight risk for Alabama, Mississippi. And you can see the tornado watch right there from Arkansas to Mississippi. Maybe I can click on that, and we'll see the unique tropical system related tornado warning there. So they got the summary right there. Moderately strong low-level wind shear. Moderately strong low-level shear will support the possibility of a few tornadoes this evening this afternoon into this evening. Okay, obviously I'm not fully awake. I actually slept from about 10 to 6. I'm still trying to get a deadline done on one of my newspaper articles. But I think I'm gradually waking up here, and should probably grab some more LaCroix soda here. 700 millibars. Let's see here, or actually this is up at 500 millibars. This is showing a bit of a change to that anomaly dipole that we had earlier this week. This is earlier this week, and we can see that we had this ridge out over the west coast with troughing up to the north. And this is switched around where height anomalies have backed off to the west, and the low height anomalies have moved off to the east, so the dipole is more oriented that way. And that means northwesterly flow for western Kansas, and that'll be bringing some colder air southward into the northern plains. And you can also see the breakdown of that ridge that had been affecting the southwestern U.S. there. Showing a little bit of the lower heights associated with Cindy right there. And we can look at this a little bit closer on the 250 millibar chart. Looks like we've got sort of a long wave across the U.S. Maybe a couple of troughs moving through the flow here. And the big ridge pushing way back out into the Pacific off the left side of the chart. We can see a little bit of the circulation of Cindy here. Again, this is this morning. We don't have the current data yet. So the center of circulation right there over the Houston area. So it's showing a little bit of tilt there. 200 millibar chart. Showing the center of circulation around Brenham to College Station. And then we go down to 500 at 18,000, and that goes over Houston. And then 700 millibars, pretty much right into the circulation of Cindy right there. So that tilt right there tells us that the system has taken on baroclinic structure. So temperature advection is starting to power the system, and that gives us kind of a hybrid type of structure. And so we're seeing the system behaving a little bit more like a front this evening, maybe something like that, as it moves northward. And indeed that becomes important because the main powerhouse for the system when it's out over the Gulf, when it's barotropic, that's the latent heat release. And we definitely don't have that over the inland areas. It's relatively dry there. So these baroclinic processes become more important. Picking up 55 knots there at Lake Charles at 8:50 this morning. Picking up 50 also there at Lake Charles. And there's the potential temperature analysis. Anything interesting on here? Yeah, maybe a gradient up to the north. That could be the next system slipping southward. We do have gradients out to the west, but these are very typical for this time of year. The trick here is recognizing which ones are abnormal. And I think there may be another gradient right here that looks a little bit abnormal. So maybe part of the frontal system slipping into the Great Basin area. So we'll check for that on the thickness chart as we get to that. Okay, we'll take a quick look at a satellite picture here. I'll do a single image so we don't mess up the stream. Okay, well that's probably not going to be enough. Okay, I'm going to do a 10 frame animation here. So let's see what happens. That's probably too far out. Let's give that a try right there. Okay. This should work out a little bit better. So this will show the remnants of Cindy. And we saw some of that pass over our area here, just southeast of Dallas. And the higher convective elements from about, looks like around, trying to remember the name of the base there, POE. That's not Pope Air Force Base. That losing my memory here on stations, but yeah, there's basically from western Louisiana up to Monroe, some of the higher convective elements, and then there's this other area out that way. Out to the west, we see the thermally powered thunderstorms there over the high plains, a little bit of moisture making it up to the north. And I gotta say that this cloud, it's probably cirrus, but it's got kind of like the look of dust. I don't think that that's dust, but anyway, there it is, and additional storms back over the Guadalupe Peak area. We can take a look at the polar orbiter data. Let's do that. See what's going on out in the Gulf. And there's the remnants of Cindy working its way inland. And we see some of the deeper convective elements out to the east. And things look pretty dry on the central plains out to the southern plains. So that's the dry air advection that we've had over the past few days taking its toll. So even during the late morning hours, we're not able to get those cumulus fields going that are normal this time of year. Does look like a little bit of a boundary up to the north, though, right here. Let's see where that is. Okay, Kansas. So that would be something you would watch earlier in the day. And looks like a little bit of the monsoon moisture probably moved inland a bit here. It's definitely showing up on the Mogollon Rim here in Arizona. And through the Four Corners area also. You can definitely see the Painted Desert right here, just northeast of Grand Canyon. Very pretty territory out in that region. And can we see the Grand Canyon? Yep, there it is right there. Colorado River moving right through this area here. And there's the northern rim of the Grand Canyon. Let me make sure I've got this area right. Yeah, that's totally the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And then we move to the west, and then we get into the Lake Mead area. And there's Las Vegas. Showing up pretty well this morning, and further up to the northwest we can find where I used to work, which was up at the Tonopah Test Range. Yeah, there's Mud Lake, and that's the airfield right there. That's where I used to work. One thing that was cool that we used to do when I worked at Tonopah, the distance between the airfield and the mountains was 18 miles. We would bring in new observers, and we would ask them to eyeball this and estimate how far away the mountain range was. And they'd say 8 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles. They were always surprised it was 20 miles. I mean, the visibility is so good out in this high desert terrain. Okay, moving on. Let's see. We don't need the Cuban radar. Let's check out our thickness charts. We'll do the NAM for North America. Okay, looks like we've had a bit of a baroclinic boundary moving southward through the North Plains here. So you see the leading edge there. That's very distinctive. Also a big change in the northwestern U.S. So that looks fairly close to what we had seen with the boundaries with that other product earlier. Maybe a bit of a warm front through Ontario here. And this is all being driven by this high pressure in western Kansas out in this region right here. And looks like maybe a little bit of a dry line extending south through West Texas in that area. And we're getting to the season where that dry line is starting to migrate a little bit further back into New Mexico. And then we find, not necessarily the dry line itself, but we find the moisture field starting to make its way into southern Arizona around mid-July and late July. And then by August, a lot of the moisture is making it all the way up to Vegas, Utah. And it gradually works its way inland and kind of fills in. And that's due to all the strong desert southwest heating gradually bringing in moisture. We lose some of it due to convection. But overall, over time, you bring in more and more of it, and you can't support 20's dew points as much anymore. And so gradually, the moisture field increases over the month of July and August. And some of the worst flooding that I remember in Tucson was in October of all times, and that was due, I think, due to some hurricane remnants, I think. It's funny, I was there during that 83 flooding event, and I want to say, I'm pretty sure that had to be tropical storm remnants, because those can carry amazing amounts of moisture. And even when they cross the mountains, August, September, October into Texas, those can still carry precipitation totals of over 10 inches. They are packed with amazing amounts of moisture. So when I train forecasters, I would always tell them not to ever underestimate how much those systems could carry. Okay, we'll take a look at a few soundings, and I think a good one to look at would be Lake Charles. And there's going to be a little bit of convective contamination here, but you can see the strong flow from the south. Not much directional shear, so, well, the photograph is not too much help because it's not labeled. But let me see, what part of, yeah, this part here is going to be the low-level part of the photograph. And we can see that there is some straight line characteristics to it, but not much turning. So we don't have a big curved photograph profile like that. Now, where we do get frictional effects, that becomes important because that will back the low-level flow, and then you will get that curvature, and that's kind of what we're seeing today in Missouri as the flow starts abating in the mid-levels and the low-level flow starts turning more out of the east. And I'll probably be able to show that to you on the pivotal weather charts here towards the end. Okay, I was looking at I was trying to find 100 millibar charts. These are, for some reason, they're almost impossible to find on the internet. I had to get this one off of the Climate Prediction Center because I was trying to see if I could see the tops of Cindy. I was thinking maybe out in the Gulf we might find a little bit of high pressure aloft, and all I found was maybe a ridge in this area here. And this is a very, very synoptic scale chart, so I don't know if that's really representative. But if you all know of any good 100 millibar analyses, that would be worth looking at. It seems like most of them are capped at 200. Now, of course, we can do that on digital atmosphere, but I was hoping to get that off some other chart. Okay, let's see. Let's check out the composite reflectivity on the high-resolution rapid refresh and see what the remains of Cindy are going to do. We know that they're over northwestern Shreveport, and let me see if we can pick them out on GR level 2. Okay, here comes GR level 2, and I guess we're going to look at the Shreveport radar to see what's going on there. Okay, Shreveport radar is starting to come up right now. And let me take a look at the chat here. We have Sue M and Andrew. Jumping Flash, Fun with Tech. Alexi is here, and Thomas Copeland, Kevin McKinney. Alexi and Brett Dean saw a wall cloud there. Excellent. Eddie W is here, Jumping Flash, liking the opening music sequences. And those do give me a chance to kind of catch up. Sue M says audio is good, and Robert Terrell saying hello. Jumping Flash was an aerographer's mate. And we used to study with the Navy guys. We both went through a lot of the same training, and I don't know what it was about the Navy guys. I don't know if they had more details or more duties off during our time off, but I remember those guys were always falling asleep, and our forecaster would always have them standing up in the back of the room there. I guess maybe they had it a little bit harder than we did, but yeah, I made some good friends there. Tom J is here, and Burl H and Mike Bexley. Some people giving me kudos here, and I appreciate that. And Jumping Flash had to become a Patreon donor, and thank you very much for that. And while we're on the subject, yeah, Patreon donors, let me... we did get a couple ones today. David Moore, I appreciate the donation, and Suzanne Meissner, also a donation, and that's much appreciated. And I need to tell you guys that we are looking at, I'm looking at probably moving to town here. It's not for sure, but I may be moving to town in the next couple weeks. Looking at a house there, and that would mean faster internet and probably HD streams if that works out. Now, of course, we would lose the great outside views, but I'm thinking about keeping the internet out in the rural areas here with a computer and just pulling in the feed from that. Actually, I don't even think I need a computer. Trying to think how I'd pipe in the feed, but anyway, yeah, this is where Patreon donations are very helpful. So if you want to contribute to the moving fund, that would be a giant help because we have enough expenses as it is. Lloyd McCarter here. Good evening, Cindy curling through our area with a little rain. Hello, everyone, from Alexi. Brett says, subscribe, appreciate that. Jumping Flash, done and done. Justin and Sue, liked. Grand Canyon humbling grand experience in person. Looked like a smoke plume north of Tonopah. Carl Berghoff, happy birthday. Let's see, we got Brett Dean here. And Brett Dean said that smoke did look like smoke or dust or whatever that was. Tomorrow, 100% chance of precip in southern Indiana. The remains of Cindy heading in there. Brett Dean asks, did we have a derecho this year? I think we had a few, but my memory is kind of not that good on which days those happened on. But I think we reviewed a couple of them there. Nothing like the Joplin storm back in 2011 or 2012, though, so I don't think I've seen anything like that. Brett Dean became a trained spotter. Awesome. And just going very quickly through here. Ryan working the desk and flight schedules. Hopefully things returning to normal there. Fun with Tech says University of Wyoming has 100 hectopascal charts. Okay, so yeah, maybe we can go there. I don't know why they didn't show up on Google. Upper our maps, and yeah, we've got a bit of a selection here, all the way up to 10 millibars. All right, let's see what comes up. Okay, so this is going to be up at about 53,000 feet. This is looking way up there, and you can see how cold the temperatures are. Do we see the high pressure from Cindy? Well, there's not quite enough data. In fact, what I see here is a cyclonic pattern. I'm just doing a very quick streamline analysis. I don't know, you could probably call this ridge maybe part of Cindy, but we did know that the system was stacking upward into the west with height, so maybe actually this trough here is a reflection of Cindy. Maybe we just haven't had enough outflow, or maybe it's been pretty well ventilated, and as a result we're not seeing mass convergence aloft. Maybe that's the deal there. But GR level 2 there, showing what's left of the storm there. We run a quick animation, and looks like the center of the circulation moving into southern Arkansas there near El Dorado. Not much left of that. And the eastern quadrants, though, those have the greatest tornado risk, and actually all the way out to Jackson and further east into Alabama, that's where we're looking for more of the severe weather risk. Storm relative helicity a little bit higher in that area. Okay, the remaining forecast for the rest of tonight for Cindy, looking at the high-resolution rapid refresh, bringing the remnants up into Arkansas. This is about midnight, so yeah, heading up to the Little Rock area. Rain bands on the western side. Then by dawn, we see things moving up to the Blytheville area, up to the Boot Hill, Missouri. So there's definitely some mesoscale structure to this convection. A couple decent MCSs, especially up here from southern Indiana out to Carbondale and south of St. Louis. And then by the end of the run, 17Z, this is just before noon. Center of the circulation near Dyersburg, Tennessee. And most of the precip stacked up just out to the east of that. So as far as severe weather potential, we can take a look at the significant tornado parameter. That's pretty good for that. So we start out with the center of the circulation right there, and we can see on the eastern quadrant, yeah, there's a little bit of elevated tornado potential. As the night goes on, looks like maybe a little bit moving up to the Memphis area, but these values are kind of low. So we're probably losing a little bit of the heating there. And the values toward morning look reassuringly low. Looks like maybe a little bit of enhancement coming up in the Nashville to Fort Campbell area around midday. So maybe we'll have to watch this area here tomorrow for maybe a few isolated tornadoes out in that area. Okay, then the rest of the forecast here, let's check that out. For tomorrow's webcast, 0Z. Remnants of Cindy, looks like they're located around the Louisville area of Kentucky. So right there. And then up to the north, things become completely overwhelmed by this cold front moving south, and this is unseasonably strong, driven by a big 1024 millibar high up in Alberta, way up here. So huge push of cold air southward, and also with that a good bit of upslope flow in West Texas. So we may see a bit of convection all the way from the Red River to the Caprock around Turkey and Guthrie, maybe to south of Lubbock near Wolford, out to Carlsbad, good places for upslope. It looks like a little bit of a leading edge here in New Mexico, so if I was chasing out there in the Las Cruces area, I would probably be watching the nose of that moisture. Looks a little bit like something worth investigating there. Okay, then for Saturday, heading into the weekend. And yeah, another thing I got to tell you guys, I may be heading down to San Antonio again. And if I do, I'm probably, well, I don't know what time I'm going to get in tomorrow night, but that may either push the webcast back late or maybe towards, or maybe we'll do it on time, I don't know. But I will let you guys know my grandmother is dying, my paternal grandmother, and fortunately she's feeling in very good shape. She's down there in San Antonio. She's mostly asleep, having moments of lucidity, and I'm kind of wanting to get down there and see her while I can. And I did talk to her on the phone, but it wasn't quite the same. You know how that goes. So I'm going to see if I can make it down to San Antonio tomorrow night. So expect a little bit of disruption maybe in the forecast. God, with that and moving to town, and there's a lot going on here. Okay, 1024 millibar high over southern Saskatchewan, pushing a lot of dry, cool air southward. And you can see we've got a little bit of onshore flow in Texas, but most of that is pushing to the west. So if I do go to San Antonio, we may see some storms in that area. Upslope pattern, always good for that. This mostly hammers the Del Rio area, the Serrano del Burro Mountains west of there. But we could see a little bit of activity there in San Antonio, especially as the sea breeze works inland. So maybe we'll have something to see there. But further north, looks like we're going to be under the influence of dry air coming from the north there. This is a pretty unusual weather for late June. Looks like this will probably gradually filter into Arizona and break up that heat wave pattern. Then by, let's see here, Sunday, high pressure covering Minnesota. Or, yeah, on to Kansas. So you can see things are under the influence of this big anticyclone, and that's kept the 70s dew points well to the south, way down to the coast there. So it should be kind of a quiet period there, I think, and very nice weather on the northeast coast. Look at those dew points out in the Gulf of California. Isn't that something? 70s. And this has always been This has always been suspected as a source of moisture in the Arizona area in late July and August, and there's been a debate over the years of whether the Gulf of California is more active for bringing moisture northward, or if moisture moving eastward or westward is more important. And I was out there in 1999 with the Nissel Swamp study. We were launching balloons every 12 hours, and we were trying to investigate that there and get a baseline on what was happening there aloft. And I never did look back and see the results of that, but yeah, look at those 70s dew points all up and down the Gulf of California. Okay, for Monday, return flow starting to set back up in Texas here. High pressure starting to absorb into the Bermuda High out to the east there. So now we're starting to return to a summer pattern at the middle of next week. So 70s start coming northward, 60s all the way up to the Dakotas. New system up here in Canada. And it looks like the main track of that system in Canada, kind of to the southeast there, the east-southeast into the Great Lakes area. Very strong cyclogenesis there in western Kansas, and that's helping to accelerate the flow out of the Gulf. And it looks like we get a pretty good wave developing here in the panhandles. This looks possibly baroclinic there. Okay, so definitely something going on in this area, and I think maybe severe weather chances could be going up there in the Central Plains on the 1st, 30th through the 1st. Yep, there's a boundary right there coming down to the Red River area for the 2nd and 3rd. And then we get up to the July 4th weekend, so I guess we do have a boundary somewhere between I-20, I-30, and maybe I-70. So probably chances of rain going up in that area. But we also need to check the 200 millibar chart. There's another high pressure region coming down. Wonder if this is going to be a cool pattern for late summer. This is kind of like shades of 1996 here. Okay, so we'll check the 200 millibar pattern. So thankfully I've got that set up here. Okay, we start out with high pressure over Florida, so very hot weather for this time of year there. I'm sure Ryan's probably getting some of that there. Ridging over Arizona, so not the closed high that we had yesterday. And then over the next few days, looks like we've got a long wave trough out over the central U.S., keeping the temperatures down a little bit. That's helping to vacuum up Cindy. And then towards next week is, you know, the Independence Day weekend. Okay, so here's some ridging coming in for the 28th. So downstream from that should be fair weather and fairly warm. And what I'm watching for here on the July 4th weekend is how much ridging we have over Texas. And going into the 2nd, looks like we have mostly westerly flow. A little bit of a low pressure area offshore that could bring some rain. Looks like that drifts out into Louisiana there. We stay under westerly flow. In fact, yeah, there's a little bit of a trough coming across the Red River area. So this is kind of a change from what we saw in yesterday's panels. So I don't think the models have a very good handle, because now we're looking at a little bit of troughing in the central U.S. Rain chances going up for this area a little bit. But I think south of I-20 looks to be fairly good weather for the 4th. Yeah, here's something that breaks off. Yeah, this is a high pressure area. No, I'm sorry, that's a low. Okay. Yeah, some sort of upper level low out in the Gulf here for the 6th. Continued westerly flow out to the west, so looks like no brutal heat wave on the pattern for the next couple weeks, which is good news. Maybe just a little bit of warm weather here and there upstream from these ridges. And now I think we do get a pattern shift towards the end there. Yeah, you see right there, that's an upper level high centered on Arkansas. So this is 372 hours out, but if that pans out, we'd be looking at very warm weather for Oklahoma and Arkansas, and then some sort of low pressure area out in the Gulf. Okay, so we'll see what happens as far as that goes. Okay, let me take a look at the chat here. In fact, I'll give you something to look at here so you're not too bored. Yeah, we'll check out this last bit of Cindy and the thunderstorms in Texas. Radars sometimes have issues from, according to Carl Berghoff, they're doing the surface life extension. Data will be a little bit spotty. MCS on top of Sioux tomorrow there at Indiana. Which site was I using? I think I was looking at Shreveport just now. Where I think Brett was talking about something else there. Okay, I've probably crossing conversations here. Possible chase day Friday Eve, Tom J. Brett Dean, so sorry. Prayers, Tim, for your grandma. Hopefully, well, she is hanging in there. You never know. She has been doing pretty well up until now. We'll keep you in our prayers. I appreciate that. From Mike Bexley also, and from Sue M. And sending positive vibes my way from Lexi, and from Ryan, and Mike Estwick, Jumping Flash, and TD. And let's see here. And whether I'm online tomorrow night, that does depend on when I'm going to be coming in. I do have a pretty small family there in San Antonio, and I don't think my grandmother is going to really be lucid that long, which is probably going to put me back at my cousin's house later in the evening. So I think, like it or not, we're going to end up doing the weathercast tomorrow night. The only exception is if I get in late, then that will really mess up my schedule, and we would just have to put it off then. But I will definitely get my Facebook, get on my Facebook feed, because I always post updates there when something's going on. The Tim Vasquez Weathercast group, yeah, definitely check that out. I've been on there a couple times. Lexi limiting Facebook for now. Tired of the hate there. Yeah, I know how that goes. Sometimes I just click on that, don't want to see this post anymore, especially all the political stuff. That's just too much for me to look at. Shall we meet up if Tim is absent? Yeah, you guys can, but again, my plan is to get out of here kind of early, so just watch the Twitter feed there, and I'll let you guys know what's going on. GR level 3 working for the Atlantic sites. Good. Barren critical weather. Haven't heard of that. I'll have to take a look at that. Cindy heading right at me in Memphis from Michael O. Already getting heavy tropical downpours today. And my guest week, there is a Google Community Meteorology Lab fans that I made, and that is much appreciated. And I think we should probably start putting these on our titles. Maybe I'll add some of these fan groups to the title cards. So let's look at doing that over the next week or two. Okay, let's see here. Let me get my closing music all set here, because I think we're about done for now. I appreciate y'all watching the webcast, and we'll probably talk to you tomorrow. And until then, have a good evening and take care.